Hey guys, this is MichaelBtheGameGenie, and welcome to another episode of Video Game Nostalgia.
Revolved.
Today on Video Game Nostalgia, I want to talk about one of gaming's oldest traditions, and that is lending games. You always wanted to lend games between friends. Not exactly, because I wasn't exactly the kind of friend that would actually like to lend games, because unlike a lot of people who just had games and wanted to trade them and play them back and forth, I was always kind of a collector, and I was always very concerned about the condition of my games, whether or not there'd be any label damage, whether the case would get cracked, whether the game would work properly when I got it back, hell, whether I even get it back at all. And you see, that caused me to really not lend games to friends. And when I did, for some reason there was always terrible results. Let me give you an example of that. Yeah, so this is Vice Project Doom. I told you it was this good.
Can I borrow it?
I don't know, I don't usually lend my games out.
Come on, don't be an idiot.
I guess so. Okay, so please take good care of it, and I want it back in a week, okay?
Okay. I promise I will.
Man, it's been like a month already. Is she ever going to give that game back? I'm going to have to give her a call.
Hey Mike, what's up?
Hey Lara, it's Mike. I was just wondering, you know that game I lent you, Vice Project Doom? Well, you've had it like a month now, and I kind of only lent it to you for a week, so is there any chance you could give it back?
Oh, your game. What's it worth to you?
I don't have any money, but what I do have is a particular set of skills.
Whatever. You're an idiot. I'll bring your game over.
Oh, thank God. Alright, I'll be here waiting for you.
Here's your game.
Alright, my copy of Vice Project Doom. No! So guys, that is a perfect example. While growing up, I hated lending games to friends. Okay, so that wasn't really a real life example. That was actually my wife who took part in that. And thank you so much, Lara. I really appreciate it. Guys, for your understanding, Lara doesn't really like to be on camera and has actually expressed to me that she doesn't want to be on camera. But I really need someone to take part in that, and thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Even though that wasn't realistic, I've actually had some very bad experiences lending games to friends. I want to share those with you right now. I remember it was just after Christmas 1995, and for Christmas that year I'd asked for some really strange games. I asked for, of course, Batman Forever, which as we know is one of the worst all-time games, so it wasn't a real slam dunk to play that Christmas morning. But the other game I asked for wasn't very good, but it was a game I'd really enjoy being a huge wrestling fan, and that was WrestleMania, the arcade game. So I had this game for about a month. One of my friends come over and we had played it together non-stop for a couple of weeks. Then all of a sudden, it disappeared and I didn't know where it was. I couldn't find it for a whole month. And of course, I just thought maybe I'd lost it. I've been looking everywhere for it. Until about a week later, I went over to my friend's house, and there sitting in his Super Nintendo was my WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game. So of course I asked him, I said, "Oh, did you get a copy of this as well too?" And he came right out and told me. He said, "No, this is your copy. I knew you wouldn't lend it to me, so I just took it." You just took it? You can't do that. Anyways, that was the very last time I think I ever lent anything to this guy. Anyways, he's an awesome guy, but I was so upset about that. He pretty much just took my game from me. So I had already had a bad taste in my mouth from lending games to friends. A little later on in the PlayStation era, I picked up a great game called Resident Evil 2. Now I'd only had this game for about 2 weeks, but I had already finished it, but it was still a really new and fresh game in my mind. Then all of a sudden my friend Charlie came along and said, "Hey man, can I have a lend of your Resident Evil 2? Well, I agreed to lend it to him, but I had some hesitation. Anyways, Charlie took it, and I thought he'd have it for a couple weeks. Well, a couple weeks turned into a couple months. And then finally I had to beg him. I said, "Charlie, where is my copy of Resident Evil 2? And he finally gave it back. And anyways, he did a really good job. It wasn't scratched up or anything, but I did have one huge problem. There was a minuscule crack in the case. And I know it's not a big deal, and I should be happy I got the game back at all, and my friend enjoyed playing it, but that crack drove me nuts. And that was the very last time I ever lent a friend a game. But you know what? Honestly, they're not all bad experiences. Before the Super Nintendo era, before the PlayStation era, going back to the original Nintendo, this is when most people will really remember lending games between friends or trading games back and forth. And I had a really good friend who was my first best friend growing up by the name of Joey. And I never had The Legend of Zelda growing up for the Nintendo, but he did. And then one day, he actually lent me the game. He just lent it to me and he said, "Here, you go ahead, you can have it and just play it." So anyways, I took it home and I fell in love with it. The Legend of Zelda was one of my favorite games of all time, and I played it the whole time I was there. But unfortunately, I had to move away when I was around 11 years old. I was moving to Paradise, and we were going to be moving away from each other. So I went to give him back his copy of The Legend of Zelda, and he said, "You know what, man? Keep it. You enjoyed it a whole lot more than I ever did." So anyways, Joey, I really appreciated that, and that's one of my favorite lending games experiences. Maybe because I got a free game. This is really one-sided. Anyways, I'm sure you guys have had many wonderful stories about lending games to friends, and maybe some horror stories. What I want you to do is, please go ahead, feel free to leave a comment down below, or even do a video response and tell me some of your favorite or terrible memories of lending games to friends. Anyways, this is MichaelBtheGameGenie, and I'll talk to you next time. Seriously, Joey, thanks. Greatly appreciated. One of my favorite games of all time.